Hello everyone and welcome to my video diary. Today is August 31st and this is volume 23. It's been a couple of weeks since I last did my video diary and there's a reason for that. Um, I had several life events intervening in my life and some of them not necessarily as good as they could have been. I first of all went on vacation with my family last weekend, and it was lovely, and I love my family. But I imagined that I was going to be able to do more writing than I did do. I just found it very difficult to work, um, just very distracting and very difficult. You need quiet when you're writing, and wasn't necessarily the quietest place in the world. And the second thing that really interfered with my ability to write was when I came back from the cottage with my family. I turned on my computer and my computer was not working. It would produce a cursor in the left-hand corner that would not leave. I looked up information on the internet and it appeared that this was either an indication that my hard drive was not working or my BIOS was corrupted. And so I freaked out, obviously. My computer is quite old, probably about 5 years old. It had already crashed a couple of times, so I knew it was just on its way out. So it was a bit of a struggle. I got very stressed out, particularly because even though I have backups of all of my files, my backups were about 3 months old. And, I'd done all that writing on my novel in the meantime, and like, I was like, fuck, fuck, fuck. I'm trying not to swear on these videos, but that is really how I felt. And it was very stressful for a couple of days. I managed to get a new computer, and I also got basically an enclosure for my hard drive, for my old hard drive. And unfortunately, praise the universe, I managed to extract all of my files from my old hard drive, including my novel. So I was like, oh, thank God. Now I'm going to make sure I back up more regularly than every 3 months. But in general, it got sorted out. But for several days there, I was very stressed out. I am also starting a new job, which, a couple of new jobs actually, which is very good. I'm very excited about it. But these new jobs are going to be a lot of hard work, and they are going to take a lot of my time. I'm not actually sure how much writing I'm going to be able to do. I'm going to keep going with the writing diary, and I will try to be writing on the weekends, but I'm not sure how much writing I'm going to be able to do during the week. So, very transitional period for Mr. Matthew right now, but that's the way it is. I'm happy about the changes. I still want to keep working on my novel. It might be a little bit of a struggle. And as evidence of this struggle that I'm currently going through, I didn't do that many words this last 2 weeks. I only did 645 words, which brings up my total to 38,736, which, I was glad to do those 645 words because otherwise I hadn't done anything. But I really would like to do more. And in general, too, I wanted to do more writing aside from my novel in the last 2 weeks. Basically, I wanted to finish off a couple of at least drafts of short stories that I've been working on and some essays that I've been working on, and I just couldn't get them completed. Not as productive as I wanted to be, but sometimes life interferes. So that was my situation. But I did get a lovely email recently from a fellow writer, a gentleman named Ryan. I don't know how much he wants to be identified, so I'll just mention his name, Ryan. And he contacted me through the email address that I provided, my about box. And it was a very lovely email. I'm going to respond in the actual typing form in after I've done the video. But I just thought I would address one of the questions that he had in the video, sorry, in the email that he sent me, which was essentially he is a writer, but he finds it difficult to put words on the page, and and as evidenced by my video diary, whether or not my quality is very good, I have been able to put down words on a page in the last 6 months or so. And he wanted to know what I did to get through the humps that I reach. And I think the way I think about it is, I mean, there's lots of reasons why we all hit those walls. I think it's quite natural for artists or writers to hit these walls where they just don't want to work, because I think at heart we're all perfectionists and we always want everything to be perfect. And when we create something, it doesn't necessarily always start out as perfect. And although there's an enjoyment and pleasure in refining work, we have to have the feeling that when we first put the work on the page, that it's good enough to be refined, and sometimes we don't always feel that way. And it's a feeling that I feel all the time, like constantly, and I'm always uh, in the urge to, I always have the urge to stop. And, I think about it in terms of we, the reason why I write is because inside me there is a voice, not an actual voice, but an urge or feeling that I am a writer and that I need to express myself through writing. And this voice has, because I listened to it, all the good writing that I managed to do has come out of listening to this voice. But at the same time, this voice, or perhaps, I don't know if it's the same urge or perhaps a different urge that feels the same, is sometimes wants to stop me when I'm actually writing and say, no, you're not good enough right now. Do it later. Do it when you feel inspired. Do it when you feel like it'll be perfect. And I think that, I mean, that's one of the problems is that when you are an artist or a writer, your strength comes from your ability to listen to these feelings, these tiny little feelings inside you. But also the thing that stops us comes from our listening to these feelings, because sometimes they can just tell us stop doing whatever. And so essentially you have to turn writing into, you have to separate the, even though the feeling is what's making you want to write, you have to try to separate your writing from that feeling. At least this is how I feel about it, as much as possible. So you have to separate it from the feeling of I can only write when I'm inspired. And to do that, I mean, lots of people have different ways of doing it. I think scheduling helps, like doing it at a specific time and place, and uh, it's separating that space as much as possible from your entertainment or fun space. I mean, I can't do this as much as I'd like to, but I've heard it's for other people, it's often successful if they use a computer for their writing that doesn't have internet access or anything that can distract them. I find that what I need, um, I sometimes need a kind of distraction to distract my voice, to distract that voice in my head that's kind of saying, no, don't do it right now, do it later. And I find that music sometimes helps me, particularly non-vocal music, particularly music that has a sort of regular beat to it. Nothing like complex, but something that kind of just. So I actually find, and this is very odd, but it works really well, find that disco music, I listen to a lot of disco music, non-vocal instrumental disco music helps me, just simply because it gets me away from kind of stuns that part of my brain that's going, I need some pleasure right now. And it just gives it some pleasure, but then I can focus on my writing and I can just start writing. And yeah, I oddly enough use LCD Sound Systems Nike Run track, the 45-minute running track that they created, and I use that when I'm writing. I'll listen to it. Particularly, there's some sections that have vocals. I'll just move it to a section that doesn't have vocals, and just listen to that. And then when I open up my Word document, it's so much easier to start writing. I also need coffee. Um, I really, really work better when I have coffee. So having this coffee and having music, like I said, kind of distracts that part of my brain that wants to be distracted and wants to like do something else. And once that part of the brain is not paying attention, then I can focus on writing. And I mean, this video series is one way to help keep me on track because if I'm embarrassed by um, how little I've written in the last week, then I'm probably going to try to write more so that I have more to say in one of these videos. So I mean, I know that not many people watch these, but just knowing that I've said it on video and that someone can watch it and go, "Oh my God, he's such a loser," because he only wrote. I mean, who would think this? But I don't know. Maybe there are some weirdos out there who just click on random videos and go, "Oh my God, this person's such a loser," because they only wrote 200 words or something. In any case, it's just a way to get me motivated. Um, so yeah, I mean, those are the things that work for me. Schedules, trying to kind of distract myself or put myself like getting I think in some ways the music is like a white noise generation. It just kind of gets me away from paying attention to anything but the words on the page. The coffee helps me feel like I'm coming up with great ideas. And yeah, and I generally try to avoid editing while I'm writing. I feel like I know lots of writers who try to edit and edit and edit, and they write one perfect sentence, and then they write another perfect sentence, and they might spend 30 minutes writing one perfect sentence, and then 30 minutes writing another perfect sentence. And I mean, if that gets them writing and they get through, they can write a book that way. I mean, that's great. And I mean, once you've written it, you know that all your sentences are perfect. But I definitely write some clunkers of sentences, and I just keep going. That's the way I do it. And like sometimes I'm embarrassed, deeply embarrassed by the sentence I've just written, but I just move on. What I will do though is I find in general um, the bad sentences that we write, or the bad sentences that I write, are often the scaffolding sentences, the sentences that are helping me move between one sentence and another. And if I write it down and then I go, oh, I don't like that, I can erase it. I'm allowed to just erase sentences and then write something else. And then usually that helps me move from helps me get from one good sentence to another. Having a terrible sentence in the middle that I then erase helps me move. So I don't know if that's helpful for you. That's what I do. I find that every person has to kind of create their own ways to get through the tough times. I think in general, it's just important to, um, you know, for me too, I don't have any other creative outlet. It really is my writing, and really, I've really focused on my narrative writing, my fiction writing as the thing that is my creative outlet. And I find that if you have more than one outlet, you will always be distracted by those other outlets. And I mean, some people can be very successful and produce lots of different things from many different outlets. I can't do that. So I'm like, if I'm going to do anything creative, it's going to be my writing, and so that means I have to sit down and goddamn do my writing. Anyway, that's all all I really have to say about that. Hopefully it was interesting. I don't know. Um, in terms of my reading, once again, I'm going to be so busy in September. I don't know how much reading I'm going to be able to do. I mean, I'm going to be commuting a lot, so there's that. So I might be able to read on while I'm commuting, but sometimes I'm just so tired when I'm commuting. I'm like, "Ugh, just want to sit, do nothing." Um, but I'm still reading Jean Genet's Our Lady of the Flowers, and I still think it's really good. It's very dense, um, but beautiful, and yeah, it's beautiful. And you know, everyone needs more. I don't know. As I said, as I get older, I'm more interested in style than I am in than plot. I mean, a good plot could be good. I like old 19th century novels that are all like essentially plot, but a good style for me is so much more exciting. And yeah, that's what Jean Genet is. It's all style and narrative tricks, and it's gorgeous. And of course, it's queer too. And you know, as a queer writer, it's immensely interesting, just from a historical perspective, to see how um, gay identities were conceptualized at that time. They're very different, and I think we kind of need to remember that the sort of norm, the way in which gay identities are conceptualized now, and the sort of norms and the sort of narratives of like top versus bottom and mask versus femme and all that stuff, that we think of as very like we often think of them as the only way that we could possibly conceptualize being gay. And it's clear that just in the 60s, 50 years ago, um, gay identities were conceptualized in completely different ways, that in some ways more fluid, in some ways terrible, you know, but just interesting to read about. So there's that. And sort of related to that is I'm reading, I went to go, I went to buy something for I bought a birthday present for my brother. And then while I was there, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy a book for myself because I'm crazy. I will keep reading books and just buy more books. And I knew nothing about this book when I bought it. It had it's a gorgeous cover. I mean, look at all these accolades. It was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award, and it won the Lambda Literary Award. So I knew it was gay, and I was like, oh, that's good. And, there's lots of exciting blurbs on the back. It's McSweeney's, I don't really remember reading stuff by him in the New Yorker, but apparently he writes for the New Yorker. Um, and so I started reading it. I can't say the style is really my thing. It's a little precious, sometimes a little too overcooked and flowery. I mean, I say that and I'm reading Jean Genet, but Jean Genet, I don't know. There's just something. His overcookedness never feels self-conscious. It feels like this is just the way he is, whereas this feels like a little self-conscious. Um, but I mean, it's a memoir of his, of at least the first chapters. I think it's different essays. The first chapter is a memoir of him growing up, and he's lived through various periods in gay queer history, um, uh, in the last 50 years or so, and he once again has some very interesting insights into how people used to behave. And um, yeah, and I mean he identifies as a black man, and he definitely has a different perspective on things than I could ever have about the gay community. So, I mean, for that, it's incredibly refreshing and interesting to see what he has to say and how he feels, because he's deeply attracted to the arts culture in New York. But he says, like, in the 80s, particularly, it was largely run by white women. And what does it mean to be a gay black man living in that sort of world? And what does it say about you? So, lots of incredibly powerful, ideas, and uh, it's, I think, important for all sorts of people to read. So I'm enjoying it from that perspective. The style, not my favorite, but you know what? I like reading books that I have just that just flew into my life, and I have no idea where they're coming from. And um, it's going to send me in different. It's already sending me in different directions. Like he's mentioning some artists that I'm like, oh, I should read that book, or I should look at that art, and that's always valuable because you want to get out of that. We all get, our tastes get narrower at a certain point, and we always need to kind of break free of that and try to move into different directions, and um, you know, um, and so far I'm enjoying it. So yes. So this has been a long video, but it has been 2 weeks, so we're gonna end it here. And yeah, as I always say, I'm interested in questions or comments, so you can always send me an email to the email address in my About box, or you can always write a comment on my YouTube videos. The comments are enabled, and otherwise you can wait for the next video. Hopefully it'll be in a week. Hopefully I will have done some writing in the next week, even though my life will be very busy. So yes, until next time, toodles, bye.